Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
He's been advisor to Presidents Clinton and Trump, and now he's here to advise us all. Dick Morris is on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck.
All right, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Welcome back. From last week?
From last week, yeah. Well, happy Father's Day, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
We'll talk about that at some length a little later in the show.
Yeah, On the Rocks is going to do a thing on Father's Day.
Ask anyone if inflation is getting better or worse, and he'll always base his answer on what he just paid for a gallon of gas. The details of the Consumer Price Index, much less core CPI, are lost on the average person, but the specificity with which he likely recalls gas prices is impressive. It's the one economic statistic we all know and remember. Everyone agrees that the Iran peace deal is causing gas prices to drop. Indeed, the price of a barrel of crude dropped 4% just on the news of the deal. In the next few weeks, we will all see gas prices drop, and that nullifies the Democrats' big issue, which is affordability, and it completely puts a dent in that issue. Regardless of the ultimate level of prices, the rapid drop we're all witnessing in gas prices takes away the inflation issue from the midterms. The effect on Trump's ratings on the economy is sure to be dramatic. Okay, what does that leave the Democrats to talk about? The recent Harvard-Harris poll confirms Trump wins majorities on almost every other issue. Take away complaints about his handling of the war in Iran, and Trump wins every issue. The economy is doing well, but not spectacularly. Trump needed a handy answer to overcome the disappointment in the economy. By going to war, raising the price, and then bringing it down, Trump is like the guy who stopped hitting himself over the head. It feels good when it stops. That sense of well-being is likely to be felt well beyond energy prices. It makes a morning again in America believable. MAGA, Making America Great Again, is now within reach. The pledge not to develop nuclear weapons is prominent in the peace deal with Iran just announced, just as it was in the deal Obama negotiated and Trump vilified. So what's the difference? The United States Air Force, with the threat of force always which underlay U.S. policy toward Iran, the bristling air defenses Iran possessed and its willingness to use them against the U.S. or Israel always loomed over any peace deal. But now with the Iranian Navy at the bottom of the sea and its air defenses in ruins, the United States enjoys easy and unfettered access to the sky over Iran. Any Iranian attempt to ignore, violate, foot-drag, or obfuscate the peace deal will unleash American bombers and missiles that can fly unmolested to their Iranian targets. The last-minute U.S. bombing right before the peace deal was particularly threatening to Iran. First of all, Donald Trump attacked in a way most presidents would not. Most will be afraid of oil prices. Most will be afraid of instability. Trump wasn't. He said, I'm going to bomb particularly to make the point to them that they can't screw around on this deal. Mm-hmm. He attacked a desalinization plant that Iran desperately needs after 5 years of drought and very bad water management. The prospect also looms of U.S. attacks on Iranian power plants, knocking out its electrical grids. These threats are what brought Iran to the negotiating table, and they will be what enforces this deal. Without the threat and easy application of U.S. force, no paper signed by Iran means anything. But Trump's finger on the bombing trigger means everything. Iran will, of course, violate the deal to test Trump. But if and when he responds with Trumpian force, the deal will be back. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see off and on, with Iran trying to escape the negotiation, trying to escape the deal.
Absolutely.
And Trump bombing when they do.
I don't know
Obama
if Trump
had no such cudgel to use in holding Iran responsible. There was a real question as to the U.S. ability to strike Iran if the need arose. There is obviously none now, and this enforcement makes this peace deal a real one. No need to be sure UN or other international inspectors will have access to Iran's nuclear dust, as Trump calls it. If Iran screws around, Trump will pull the trigger, and U.S. bombs and missiles will fly again, inflicting unimaginable pain on Iran. Indeed, in a real sense, we all knew what would be and what will be in the peace deal. We just didn't know how prostrate Iran would be when it was signed. Now we know, and it's going to make all the difference in the world.
I don't think that it's going to be a back and forth. If and when Iran backs out of this thing or they do their thing, Trump is going to bomb the crap out of him. He's not going to bomb him and say, okay, let's start over. It's going to be over. Maybe one time.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be 3 or 4 times where they stop or they.
Yeah, you're probably right. The key thing is that people are asking, how is this different from Obama? And the difference is the United States Air Force. The difference is our willingness to use it, the absence of air defenses by Iranians, and this will keep this deal in effect.
And also, as you said earlier, so many presidents didn't want to touch it because of oil and whatever. Remember ISIS, when he blew up the oil fields? He asked his people, he said, how do we get rid of these people? They go, well, how about what money? You get rid of their money, they can't continue. He goes, let's blow up the oil fields. Yeah. And everyone said, you can't do that. It's going to destroy. And they snuffed out those oil fields immediately.
The other thing to remember is that, or to look at, is that Trump has fundamentally changed the entire process of oil shipments in the world.
Right.
First of all, he got the UAE, United Arab Emirates, to pull out of OPEC, which is huge.
Oh my God!
They were the second or third leading country in OPEC.
Sure.
And they were accepting the limitations on production that OPEC imposed to keep the price of oil high. And by withdrawing from OPEC and doubling their production, they are sending oil prices very high. And they are sending gas prices low, and they're really making a change. The UAE doubling its production is going to hold gas prices down. I said it wrong the other day.
This is basically Saudi Arabia. The UAE is big. Is Saudi Arabia correct?
No, it's different from Saudi Arabia.
United Arab
country, but it's slightly larger than Saudi Arabia in terms of its oil export. And by withdrawing from OPEC and increasing its oil production, the UAE is absolutely holding oil prices down and doing an incredible job for the United States. That's one. The second thing is that Oman, which is in the Persian Gulf, the country, Oman, has been is now building a new alternative to the Strait of Hormuz, an overland route. Mm-hmm. And when that's ready, which it will be later this year, we won't need the straits. Just put it on a truck and go across to Oman. And the ability of the Iranians to close the straits will become irrelevant. And thirdly, Trump acted because we were facing a global shortage of oil. The lack of oil coming through the straits for the first time was causing a situation where more oil was being used than was being produced worldwide.
Why is that?
Well, because 20% couldn't come in through the straits. And the result was that we were facing a global shortage of oil, which would have had a major global recession, depression. Trump said he didn't want to be the new Herbert Hoover. And it became clear that those were the stakes. So in bombing Iran, he's alleviated that by forcing the straits to be open. And by kidnapping Maduro in Venezuela, he's reopened Venezuela, which is about 5% of the world's oil. And now it's going to be producing again. It was at zero. So when you combine the overland route through Oman, replacing the straits, the opening of the straits because of Trump's bombing, and the and the tremendous increase in oil production through Venezuela, Trump has averted the global crisis of a shortage of oil, and he's done it at the same time that he's signed this deal. So Trump not only has pulled it off, but he's guaranteed he will continue to pull it off because of his actions.
What could be the worst thing that happens if they go off on the deal and he starts bombing them again? What do you think? What's the worst scenario there?
They'll close the straits again, but
not
it
if
won't
they're
have the same
bombed
impact that it did because we won't have the same impact that it did because of Oman, because of the UAE, because of Venezuela, and Trump is now prepared for it.
And them not having a military army anymore, a military strike.
So I think that Trump has solved this problem permanently. And it is amazing. We now have, for the first time in years, and maybe decades actually, the world existing without the threat of Iran closing off the oil supply.
50 years at least.
He's done that by UAE, by the Oman pipeline, by Maduro being toppled in Venezuela, getting its oil industry restarted. And we're now looking at Iran not only leaving the straits open, but losing leverage over the straits because the straits don't matter much anymore. And Trump has accomplished all of that this year.
You know what I don't feel anymore? Maybe just because of everything that's gone. You know how we always talk about the Middle East? They don't care if they die or not because they're going to go to heaven and it's for Allah and all blah, 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 right?
Don't forget the 72 version.
The little boys. But I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I feel like Iran is really thinking about this as a government and a business and oil and, I don't feel that thing for some reason.
It's a different Iran. We knocked out their entire leadership.
Right.
And the guys...
Wait, no, he built a bar and now they're all getting bombed?
Because they got shots, yeah. No, but...
Nobody's laughing at that.
But the point is that we have completely changed Iran. And whether the leaders who are now negotiating are able to speak for the country, I don't know.
Right.
And I think that really we are not under the threat of Iranian oil sanctions.
Right.
It's amazing what he's accomplished.
Do we even know who's leading this country right now?
Some unpronounceable name.
Yeah.
But we don't know if he's the leader. He will be until he gets assassinated.
That's when we know he's the leader.
Yeah, that's right. If you look at the photos, he's not smiling much because he finally has achieved power, but he's going to get his head chopped off.
His head is always turned. You're looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, that's right.
But
when we come back, we're going to talk about Father's Day.
Uh-huh.
When I worked for Clinton, the big issue was celebrating fathers. And the big question was, would fathers have to pay child support?
Mm-hmm.
And Trump has now assured that unless you pay child support, you're not going to get a visa.
Yeah, sure.
And that has changed everything. And on Father's Day, for the first time now, we know that kids are going to be okay because the father is actually stepping up and producing.
One thing I close to me is the mothers that fight with their husbands and then put their kids against their fathers. I think it's a disgusting thing that a woman would do. Number one, to her children. Forget about the father. That's a horrible thing for any man to go through that. But if some woman is so insecure with herself and such a horrible individual to make her children hate their father, is horrible for the children. And then they grow up with that. So anyone listen to this, if you're mad at your husband, don't put your kids in the middle of this thing, all right? Just yell at them and have a fight with them.
When Pat Moynihan worked for Kennedy, at the very start of his career, he said the big problem with American ghettos was the absence of fathers.
Absolutely.
Was that kids are being raised in single-parent households. And that meant that they didn't have the income to produce, to help children.
Sure.
It meant there was no father figure to discipline them. And that absence of fatherhood is the real problem.
Well, Johnson helped that too. Marry the government, get rid of the husband, marry the government type of thing, without a doubt. Well, but that's it. Listen, when we come back, we'll talk more about this, and we're going to go with On the Rocks when we get back. She's going to talk about Father's Day and how what happened.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the
Now, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro
Now
show.
it works.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
I want to say Happy Father's Day to Jack Haney, our friend at Patriot Gold. Listen, we're going to do On the Rocks. Roxana's got something going on with Father's Day. Do you, Rock?
Hi, everybody. Yes, Happy Father's Day. I have a little history about it. Father's Day in the United States began 1909 with a daughter's wish to honor her own father. In 1909, Sonora Smart Dodd of Spokane, Washington, was inspired by the growing recognition of Mother's Day only a few years prior and believed Father's Day deserved appreciation as well. Her own father, William Jackson Dodd, who was a Civil War veteran, single-handedly raised 6 children in the state of Washington after the passing of his wife. From that spark of devotion, it was woven into history, beginning a tireless journey that would actually span decades before becoming law. For those blessed with a loving father or father figure, this day is an anchor, a tribute to the hands that caught us before we fell. For those whose fathers have crossed into memory, today is a sacred space of remembrance. For those who experience an absent or complicated distant father, it's a day of melancholy, of collective yearning. For many, fatherhood is not marked by DNA at all, but by devotion of stepfathers, uncles, mentors, grandfathers, or those who dedicated both roles in parenting, stepping into the breach. Proven a father is anyone who chooses to shield a child, offering a steady presence that let us know we were never walking alone, the first blueprint of strength, safety, and protection. It would take 62 years to become a national holiday. In 1972, Richard Nixon did so while campaigning in his second term. Here's a quote in closing from Billy Graham, something you were speaking a little bit about, Dick. A father, one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society today, yesterday, and always. So happy Father's Day. And it did go through quite a few presidents, actually 62 years before her campaign of Father's Day became a reality.
Wow.
So thank you.
When was it a reality? 72 was Nixon?
Yeah, Nixon, right.
1972. However, it went through quite a few presidents.
That was so eloquent, Roxanne. I really appreciate that. Very moving.
Thank you so much.
It is, though, the withdrawal of fathers, the absence of fathers that has completely kindled all social problems we have in the United States. The black community and other minorities had hoped that the government could take the place of fathers, but they never did.
Johnson, right?
Yeah, but they never did. And the absence of fathers, the breakdown of the core fundamental family, has been the fundamental social ill in the U.S. And when I worked with Clinton, the big thing we worked on was child support enforcement because that was essential economically. Now, child support enforcement is better, and Trump has now ruled that you can't get a visa unless you're current on your child support, which is a very, very important statement. But it seems to me that we have not dealt with the basic issue, which is the absence of fathers.
How do you deal with that?
3/4 of all minority children are growing up in fatherless homes.
Yeah, but you can't get a guy, hey, go home and watch your kids, or you just had another kid with another woman. You better do, what is he going to do? He's going to go F you.
Yeah, well,
like, how do we can't fix that.
It's got to be a cultural thing.
It's got to be a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Listen, growing up Italian in Yonkers, I remember in the 70s, right? And then I'm driving around 76 or 77. I remember my good friends in my neighborhood. And I was one of the tough guys in the neighborhood, right? You know, people respected me. If I said, don't beat up the dog, you didn't beat up your dog. I took care of you, right? But I used to go to my Italian friends with their gold chains and their wife beater shirts. I go, come on, we're Italian. You look a little stupid over here. Don't do that with the pinky ring. And I used to actually say to you have to police your own. Blacks have to get together in their community and they have to say, hey, buddy, what are you doing? You got a couple of kids with a couple of... I policed mine back then. Everyone's got to police. The Irish should say to yell at their friends about going to the bar and bringing their kids to a bar, and the Italians should yell at their friends. And that's the way. It's the only way it can happen.
Yeah.
Government, no one else is going to come into a community.
It has to be a social pressure.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Am I still on?
Yes.
To what you just said, Doug, and what you had said, Dick, earlier with Clinton, the child support is one thing, always difficult to carry through. But it is the community, and that's why, if you remember back, maybe it was the 80s, the Big Brother program, where children will gravitate to a neighbor's father, somebody who takes the time to mentor or to guide.
Yes.
That's really what it's about, isn't it?
I remember that. I was asked to do that. I never did it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rock. That was good.
Very good.
Thank you.
A report from the National Republican Congressional Committee released June 9th shows that Republicans have been steadily gaining voter registration numbers in the battleground congressional districts since the 24 election, with Republicans gaining vote share in 19 of the 28 swing districts. Democrats, meanwhile, have lost their net registered voters in 27 of 28 swing districts since 24. Compared to the last midterm cycle in 22, Republicans have gained nearly 5 percentage points in registration margin across battleground districts. When looking further at the 2020 numbers, every district in the study saw net Republican growth compared to Democratic growth, with a net of 737,000 new Republican voters across the swing districts over the past 6 years. The report showed the largest shifts occurred in battleground states that played a pivotal role in the election of 2024, the largest shifts being in Iowa, Florida, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Mexico, and Maine. So, as we look toward the elections of 2026 coming up later this year, the key thing that we have to look at is that there has been a huge change in the registration in these swing districts. More and more people are voting Republican. And when you combine that with the population shifts of people moving out of California and out of New York, you see the potential for tremendous growth by the Republicans.
It almost sounds too good to be true. You know, really, I mean, that's a credible poll, right?
Yeah,
those polls
absolutely. And the news media likes to talk about the midterm elections like it's an iffy thing. And will we win Congress? Will we win the House? Damn right we will, because of the fundamental shifts that are going on under the surface here.
And the one thing that was going to hamper this a little bit was the Iran thing, and it looks like that might be off the table for a while, you know?
Well, not just off the table. People see that the price is down, and people see that other prices are also down, that inflation is not the issue that it was. Inflation is dropping. Cars are dropping. Other costs are dropping. And I think that the economy is in the shape that Trump wants it to be able to win the midterms.
So the people that hate Trump have to find another thing to hate him about.
Well, they're increasingly finding that they can't do it because there are no issues.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make something up.
They have to say, I can't stand the guy. Trump derangement syndrome.
I don't like his hair. Whatever.
How would the SAVE Act affect mail-in voting? The SAVE Act, which is now pending in the Senate, which Trump is pushing hard, will not override state mail-in voting rules or fulfill Trump's wish to ban the practice altogether, but it would make voting by mail harder. That's because the bill's new proof of citizenship rules will apply to voters who register to vote by mail. Anyone requesting an absentee ballot with some fundamental exceptions would still have to go in person to a local elections office to present their passport or birth certificate for their registration to be valid. Right now, only 8 states require documentary proof of citizenship for voter registration: Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Hampshire, Ohio, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. Expanding the standards nationwide would prevent non-citizens from voting.
So now President Trump's latest push to pair the SAFE Act with legislation reviving the federal government's warrantless spying powers is dividing House Republicans, with some arguing the gambit is doomed to fail. Trump has repeatedly said that he will not support renewing Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, which allows the government to spy on foreigners abroad without a warrant, unless the GOP-backed voting requirements bills is also attached to that. The Save America Act would require proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. Oh, really? A little common sense right there. And the presentation of a photo ID to cast a ballot. Trump has framed the effort as a part of a broader push on election security as the 26 midterms ramp up. The push for the SAVE Act America has split Republicans in the Senate. Some see it as a priority, while others acknowledge it doesn't have the votes to pass and view the continued focus on the measure as a distraction. Now some Republicans in the House, which passed the Save America Act earlier this year, are also warning that tying the two measures together would only complicate efforts to renew the crucial spy tool. We need to get this FISA reauthorized. It's absolutely unacceptable that it was allowed to lapse. This program is critical to our intelligence collection and national security. And you know, when it comes to national security, safety of the American people, we need to put partisanship aside, said Kelvin Kelly.
Yeah, well, that's great, but you're not going to pass the SAVE Act unless you break the filibuster.
Right.
And McConnell and Murkowski.
McConnell's still around? I thought he left.
Collins and Tillis are blocking it.
Right.
With their votes, you can't pass it. You can't break a filibuster. And I believe that Trump is right for holding it hostage. Trump is right for holding everything hostage. Until we are able to assure free elections and honest elections, what do we have? And passing 702, the FISA Act and all that is minor compared to the need to stop this phony voting that has taken over so much of the country.
Let's talk about voting. You see this, the Democrats with the sabotage. They put a guy in Alaska, what's his, Dan Sullivan. They put another Dan Sullivan in. Republicans in Alaska filed a complaint to the Alaska Division of Elections over a candidate linked to Democrats suddenly entered into a tight U.S. Senate race. In a complaint filed by them, Senatorial Committee, it was revealed the long shot candidate entering the race shared the same name as Republican Senator Dan S. Sullivan. What's his name? Dan Sullivan. Republicans were concerned that the candidate named Dan J. Sullivan, which if you take the J and put it upside down, it's almost like an F. Right, Dan J. Sullivan would confuse voters who intended to vote for Dan S. Oh, I thought it was F. Dan S. Sullivan. Now an election official in Atlanta has stopped the Democrats in Alaska from possibly stealing the Senate seat. A top Alaskan election official booted same-name Republican challenger Dan Sullivan of Alaska from the primary ballot Monday, ruling the campaign appeared designed to confuse the voters. Divisions of Elections Director Carol Beecher disqualified Sullivan, the phony Sullivan, from the state's hotly contested Senate race over concern that his candidacy was filed with the purpose to confuse and mislead. Dan J. Sullivan, wait, is that a retired school teacher? I don't know who's who. Dan J. Sullivan, a retired school teacher who filed as a Republican Senate candidate despite, he's the fake one. Despite having no prior affiliation with the GOP, can appeal the ruling. This is unbelievable. The letter caps weeks of outrage from the GOP, who argued a political newcomer's entry into the race just days before the filing deadline was a covert attempt by Democrats to recruit a sham. Under Alaska's ranked choice voting system, if Dan J. Sullivan, that's
Bad Sullivan.
Is that the bad? We got to call him Bad Sullivan, had been allowed to remain on the August primary ballot. Both he and Bad Good Sullivan, the voter incumbent, would have advanced the general election among the top four. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, they really...
I had that happen to me, happened to a candidate in 1978. I was working for Bob Casey,
Sure.
who before he became when he was still a Democrat,
Right.
always been a Democrat.
Right.
And he was the Auditor General of Pennsylvania, and he was running for governor.
KC or K-Sick?
KC.
Yeah.
And he was running in the primary for governor. And his opponent was a Democrat running for governor. And the Democrat put a guy named Robert Casey on the ballot to try to confuse the voters. And he succeeded. And my candidate lost. And when you looked at the analysis, every district where Casey, the wrong Casey got votes, the right Casey lost. So this is a tactic that had been going on for a while, and I'm very glad that the Republicans were alert enough to catch it.
It's unbelievable. I mean, they're just so foolish. I mean, the Democrats, they're just such idiots. They're like a little baby. Oh, let's try this. Like, did they ever think? It's almost like, remember when Obama said, you want to save gas, put air in your tires. It's almost like, and I could see the person in the meeting saying, oh, by the way, my father's a mechanic, and he said, if you put air in your tires, you'll get better gas. And they all went, wow, that's great. And all the little idiots that know nothing about anything, you know what I mean? Oh, let's say that. And they put it in his speech. But I think we could take a break now, don't you think?
Okay.
All right,
good.
Let's take a break. And when we get back, the real time, we'll get back.
This is 77 WABC, and this is the Dick Morris Show. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm
Welcome back
stuck
to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, it's hard to keep track of oil prices. They're crashing. Oil prices fell sharply on Sunday after Trump announced that the U.S. and Iran had signed a peace deal. Brent crude, the international benchmark, fell by about 4% in one day to below $84 a barrel. I think it's now down to in the 70s, the lowest price since March 5th. With the opening of the Strait, the signing of the deal on Friday, for purposes of mine removal, oil will flow on both ends again for the region, for the world, Trump said Sunday night. Stock futures tied to U.S. equity markets climbed on the news. The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete, Trump wrote in earlier Truth Social posts. Congratulations to all. I hereby authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the U.S. naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow.
Start
And
your engines.
but beyond that, as I said, he has taken crucial steps to eliminate the leverage that Iran presents by threatening to close the Straits.
That's pretty much it.
By having Oman build a land route, by doubling the UAE oil production, and by opening Venezuela, which had been doing 5 million barrels a day. There are 100 million barrels of oil in the world consumes every day. 100 million. Keep that in mind.
Wow.
So expanding to UAE's oil drilling by 5 million barrels is a 5% increase. Opening Venezuela is a 5% more, and the Straits of Hormuz are 20.
Wow.
So
that's 30% more.
And,
wow.
And that's what's happening. And the result is the price of oil is dropping, and the price of gas is going to be dropping.
Now, I don't know if we know enough about this yet, but is this a corridor Oman is doing like a rail, and they're going to offload the oil like we were looking at a couple different things?
Exactly.
Is that what that's going to be?
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess more to see where that's going to go. Wow, it's amazing. Democrat-run cities become graveyards of civilization. The flag is being lowered in blue cities across the country. California's political establishment managed to keep common sense conservative Spencer Pratt off the November ballot for mayor of Los Angeles. It was terrified of voters having a real choice. Now it will be a business as usual, socialist versus an uber socialist. Mr. Pratt has a way of asking uncomfortable questions about homelessness, the Palisades fire, and other scandals the powers that be want to sweep under the rug. Los Angeles has the largest homeless population in the nation. It grew by 10% in 23. The city spends an estimated $1.3 billion annually to make the homeless comfortable and keep them on the streets, Mr. Price. Listen, if you're going to spend $1.3 billion, can't you buy them all like a little apartment?
Right.
For $1 billion, right? How many homeless are there? A couple thousand? You could.
No. In LA, there's something like
tens of thousands?
Hundreds of thousands.
No.
Yeah. Well, LA's population is about 3 million or 2 million, and about 200,000 homeless.
Oh my God. Even still, $1 billion would be fine, right? Mr. Pratt has rightfully asked why mothers taking their children to the park should see homeless men defecating and masturbating in the street. The 2025 Palisades fire raised more awkward questions. City fire hydrants were dry. That little fish. You can't hurt that little fish that they were worried about, right? Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, the bass fish. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who was on a junket to Ghana when the blaze broke out, cut the fire department's budget to pay for her favorite diversity, equity, and inclusion program, DEI. You know what Charlie Kirk said? DEI stands for didn't earn it. In November, voters probably will reward her with second term. Instead of rats leaving.
Just to be sure, they've knocked her real opponent off the ballot by phony signings by homeless people.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm about to read that, aren't I? Instead of rats leaving the sinking ship, the rats are staying behind while the people go overboard. More than 54,000 residents of Los Angeles County, among them the best and brightest, left in one 12-month period. Miss Bass has a head start on New York City Mayor Moran Mankami, who has been in office only since January 1st, but the Kim Jong-un of North Korea on the Hudson is making a valiant effort to catch up. That's pretty good. New York City's budget for population of 8.5 million is more than that of the entire state of Florida, with 23.5 million residents. It's still not enough to pay for the grand vision of the elite. Mr. Mandani is working on a scheme to build 200,000 public housing units and confiscate some existing private units which he calls transferring the ownership of neglected buildings to public trust, tenants, and Soviets. What's Soviets?
Yeah.
New York and Los Angeles are not alone. When told business was fleeing the city's sky-high taxes, Seattle's socialist mayor, Katie Wilson, responded with a contemptuous bye-bye. Democrats have made cities unlivable. This results in the fleeing of residents who do not want to live with squalor, corruption, and substandard services, which in turn result in an increasingly Democratic electorate. That electorate is what makes the ascension of Karen Bass and Zoran, the moron, possible.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's common sense.
But I've noticed in the last couple of months since Mankami took over.
Sounds funny coming from you.
There has not been the kind of collapse that I thought would happen in New York.
Say again?
There has not been the kind of collapse that I thought would happen in New York. And
well, first of all, he's not doing a free bus and the grocery stores.
Right.
So that's why
and the
nothing's
stuff
collapsing.
he's doing that's going to cause the collapse is going to cause it in a couple of years. First of all, he's confiscating housing from landlords and giving it to the city.
Is he actually doing that yet?
Well, he's starting
He
to.
wants to.
And that's going to be, that'll take a longer term. And I think that ultimately Mankami is not, it's not happening immediately. It's going to happen a little bit.
Because of him not doing the free bus.
Yeah.
The free grocery store. And
Well,
there
free
was something-
grocery store he is, but he has it out of the way. And he's not replacing existing grocery stores. He's just doing a new one. And he's been fairly restrained in what he's doing. And I think that has given socialism a better name.
Oh, God. Giving socialism a better name. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to Democratic Socialists of America.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. I've always said that when the Democrats lose the national election, they move to the left, and they don't move to the center. I thought they would move to the center, but then when I worked for Clinton, it was apparent that they were just moving to the left. And I was able to stop Stephanopoulos and Ickes and others from
Stephanopoulos
and Panetta from doing that. But now there's no one to stop them. And I think the growth of the socialist movement in the Democratic Party is the best thing that could happen to this country.
For us.
Because it will elect Republicans. And increasingly will make the Democratic Party and the Socialist Party completely one and be very good.
They'll never get elected back in. The Democratic Socialists of America have spent years building influence inside the Democratic Party, recruiting candidates, building campaign infrastructure, and embedding operatives inside races stretching far beyond the deep blue urban enclave where the movement first gained traction. Now, after a fresh wave of primary victories in 26 races across the country, Mayor Moron Mankami's high-profile rise in New York politics, the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, aligned candidates and organizers are becoming increasingly difficult for Democrats to ignore, as you just said. Mankami's victory last year gave the DSA one of the biggest governing footholds yet and accelerated the expansion of a progressive political infrastructure into congressional, state, and local races. This is a horrible thing that happened, right? The DSA's own election tracker underscores that growth. According to figures published by the organization Team DSA, candidates were involved in 133 races this cycle, with 14 wins already secured, 91 candidates still running, and 27 losses recorded so far. That's a lot of wins, Dick. That doesn't sound great.
It is great. They're primaries. they'll lose the general.
Oh, yeah, right.
Wait till they meet us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, very good.
I don't care how many win primaries.
Oh, that's right.
Go ahead, win all the primaries you want.
I was looking at a different picture. Like,
because
oh my
in
God.
November you meet us.
That's right.
And we'll beat the hell out of you.
Oh, I like it. They're not a fringe group anymore, said some guy, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and longtime Democratic analyst. Their influence is far more than people would have guessed it would have been just several years ago. The organization's rise, which accelerated after Bernie Sanders' campaign and Republican AOC, upset the 2018 victory. Other DSA-backed or DSA-aligned candidates who advanced or claimed victories in state and local races this year included candidates in Georgia, Oregon, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, and Vermont, reflecting the organization's continued focus on building influence beyond Congress and into municipal legislation.
Yay. Go get it.
You know what?
Guys.
You're right. You know, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, oh, this is horrible. I can't believe this. And then primary, that's great.
Go
You're
on,
right.
guys.
Hello.
Go on. Control them all.
Yeah. Let's dance.
And I think that as the Democratic Party becomes identified with socialism in the United
They're
States,
never going to win.
it becomes almost impossible for them to win.
In other words, there would have to be like major coup in their party for this to stop.
Well, defeats.
To me, it's coup.
We'll beat them in 28. We'll beat them in 26. We'll beat them in 30 and 32. And after they lose a whole lot of elections, maybe they'll get over the socialist BS that they're now pushing.
Yeah, but I just don't see it. Wow. Wow, it's really amazing. I love it.
GOP congressional leaders will not attach Save America legislation to the legislature reauthorizing the FISA authority. Thune said Monday that it's not realistic to link the two unrelated issues as Republicans work quickly to renew Section 702 of the Foreign Surveillance Act. I certainly would hope that we can get FISA off the floor and sign it. It's that important, Thune said. So this is a fundamental difference between Thune and Trump. Trump is saying you have got to pass the SAVE Act. You got to stop America from being taken over by phony voting.
Sure.
Between the mail-in voting and the phony voting, you see what's happening like in Los Angeles, where Pratt won and he was denied a ballot because of homeless signed up on the street.
Right
where
there.
Gym membership was enough for proof of citizenship. And you can't let that continue. And Trump is saying we're not passing anything until the SAVE Act passes.
And it should.
And Thune is saying, no, we have to pass this. It's very important for national security. Yeah, it is. But far more important for national security is the SAVE Act, is making sure America is run constitutionally. Mike Johnson said on a Fox News interview Sunday that reauthorizing FISA requires 60 votes from the Democrats. He hoped the Democrats will put their shenanigans aside. The point is that we can't rely on them to do that, and we've got to have the Republicans step aside, let the SAVE Act pass, give it the votes necessary to do it through reconciliation, screw the filibuster, and then pass 702 if you want. But we could live without 702 as long as our elections are honest in the United States.
Right. Okay. When we get back after the hour, and we'll have a little more on this.
He's been advisor to Presidents Clinton and Trump, and now he's here to advise us all. Dick Morris is on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. We've got on the phone Jonathan Depierro, who I'm supporting in Connecticut, in the 5th District, I think, who is running in the Democratic primary. When will that be, Jonathan?
Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon, Dick. Good afternoon.
When is
everyone.
the primary?
The primary is August. I'm in the Republican primary.
August what? What date?
August 11th.
August 11th. Okay. The Jonathan is running in the Republican primary for Congress in the 5th District. And I wrote a letter supporting him, and he's been kind enough to circulate it. Because I think first of all, I think he's a great candidate. He grew up in the streets of Waterbury. He's not an elitist. He's not from the country club parts of the district where I live, in Reading. He's, in fact, a real street person with a real capacity to fight for the inner city vote. But the reason that I think his race is particularly important is because the U.S. Supreme Court has now ruled that it is illegal to have districts based on race. And you can't draw district lines to encourage black congressmen. And as a result, there are going to be very few black congressmen elected in 26 and fewer in 28 and 30. Because they will no longer be able to come from racist, segregated districts. Now,
that's in Democratic places.
Right. And Jonathan Depierro reminds us that there are black Republicans too, and that you can get black congressmen who are truly representative of America moving forward without gerrymandering the lines. Mm-hmm. And that's why I really support Jonathan, and I hope he wins his primary. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Who you are going against in the primary, Jonathan? This is Doug.
How you doing, Doug? Christopher Shea. Christopher Shea is a Navy SEAL who the establishment picked to go against me. He came up from Alexandria, Virginia. They moved him up here. I think he got back up here about 2024. He served in our service for about 30 years, and he's been away from Connecticut for a long period of time. He's out of touch. He doesn't know the district. He's not going to go into the cities, and he's not going to get anything done that needs to be done in order to actually win this district. Mm. I was campaigning in the city of Danbury about a couple of weeks ago at the street festival. I was chasing around one of our communist senators, Judy Kushner, telling her that she's a racist because of her policies of dumping these illegals inside the black communities and taking away resources that were allocated for American taxpayers. I told her right to her face who she is, because she wants to play this race bait and propaganda. It's not going to work with me because I'm from those communities.
Right.
And, and also, I'm endorsed by several Republican town committees that are in the rural areas, like Kent, Plymouth, the town of Plymouth. I was just recently endorsed by Bell Academy, the School of Cosmetology, by Michael Cervellino. He owns 6 locations.
Yeah, but the point is, we don't want a carpetbagger who, as admirable as the service was to this country, who gets imported here from Virginia to run. Exactly. We need a local, homegrown candidate who understands the problems we face, but approaches them from a Republican point of view, who's not going to use the Democratic welfare state to subsidize the seat. And I think that Jonathan Depierro is exactly the kind of candidate we need.
Absolutely. America First policies. We got to get people back to work. I want to create a federal funded job training program to get everybody that's on government subsidized living to get back to work. It's supposed to be a safety net, not a lifestyle.
Right. Jonathan, today is Father's Day. Talk to us about single-parent households and what you can do about that.
Oh, that's another problem I got with John Hayes. She's promoting Gay Pride Month, but yet she's not promoting healthy, strong, two-parent households. It's a known fact that 93% of the kids that grow up in single-parent homes are likely to go to prison.
Wow. 93.
From the school to prison pipeline.
Wow.
So we have to encourage two-parent household. We have to encourage strong fatherhood relationships. See, the Marxist agenda was always to destroy the family, and they targeted the black family first. Now they're going after everybody else. with that feminist movement promoting, oh, I don't need a man, but yet they got black women dependent on Uncle Sam. That was all a plan to destroy the household.
Marry the government.
Marry the government. So if you got these kids growing up in a single parent household and the mom, you know, is married to the government and they don't have no father instilling discipline and structure and responsibility, they're going to go down the wrong path.
But Jonathan, I said this earlier on the show. I think people in the community have to police their own community. You know, it's really hard for a government to come in and say, you have to look out for your children.
It's a question of standards.
Like, how do you do that?
Well, one of the ways you do is by electing a guy like Jonathan Depierro,
right,
who talks about this problem frankly,
right,
and says that the issue is we cannot raise kids in one parent households because there's not enough income, there's no love, there's no support, and we can't let that continue.
And he's a black man that could stand up with strength and talk to the community and say, look at me. I'm in Congress. Look what I've done. So that's it, right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And from a historical standpoint, I mean, we've done it before. I went to Washington, D.C. back in February and walked through Frederick Douglass's 7-bedroom mansion. And I'm like, this man was a black man who fought and got his own freedom. He was traveling around the world when black people were still in slavery, and he was the advisor of 5 United States sitting presidents. When he died in 1895, he was worth $300,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just walked by that
home
building.
In your district, we have Gary Franks, who was a Republican congressman for 2 terms, I think. And they used to have meetings of the Black Caucus in Congress, and there were 40 Democrats and 1 Republican. And he was the Republican.
Wow.
And when he lost, we lost the only representative we had, who was a black Republican. Now we have a chance for another in Jonathan Depierro in the same district. And we Republicans should jump on that. We should go to the primary and vote for Jonathan Depierro. So he's our candidate in November, and he'll win in November. We'll get that seat.
John, what kind of feedback are you getting when you go out? I'm just curious what the people are saying.
Oh, man, the people love me. I'm talking about even black Democrats, black women at that. They love me because what I'm doing is I'm addressing the obvious, right? We see all the illegals in our community, and I'm letting them know Jahana Hayes voted against H.R. 2, which would have secured our southern border in 2023. She voted to keep our borders open, and they dumped all those illegals in our community. When Governor Abbott and Ron DeSantis was forced to ship those illegals up north, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard. What did they do? Those white liberal Democrats put those people on those planes and buses the same week and got them out of there.
The next day,
them all in our community. Yes, exactly.
Unbelievable. Exactly. Not my backyard.
Jonathan, I love having you on, and let's have you on once again before the primary. But everybody remember, particularly Republicans, go to the polls in the primary on August 11th and vote for Jonathan Depierro. It's very important that we have a conservative, Reagan, Trump, black man representing this district in Congress.
And he will make a difference. He'll go to the community and make a difference. And this is what we need. Thank you, Jonathan. It was great.
Thank you.
Oh, give us a website or something that people can go on for you.
Yes. So it's DeBarrosForCongress.org. And my last name is D as in David, E as in Edward, B as in boy, ARROSFOR, Congress.org.
DeBarrosForCongress.org.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank
Jonathan.
you, Jonathan.
Good luck. We'll see you again before the primary.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. God bless.
Bye.
Yep.
President Trump sought to cancel Wednesday's confirmation hearing for Jay Clayton to be Director of National Intelligence. But Senate leaders say they'll proceed this afternoon as planned unless the president directs Clayton not to appear or withdraws his nomination. Senate Republicans' move makes clear that they disagree with Trump's decision to delay Clayton's confirmation to ensure his embattled temporary pick, William J. Pluty, will start the job as planned. This is another of these steps where Trump is trying to tie up the Senate, stop them from moving on FISA, stop them from moving on the DNI confirmation until they pass the absolutely essential
The
SAVE Act.
Mhm.
He can't keep putting other stuff before it. And he has got to bring pressure on these four recalcitrant, horrible Republicans, one of whom is retiring, Tom Tillis, one of whom was beaten, one of whom is retiring, Mitch McConnell, and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. And we have got to have these people permitting a filibuster to continue. But we don't need them. John Thune can do it by himself. And we've got to put pressure on this majority leader to actually lead the majority and be sure that we are able to move ahead with the SAVE Act.
I can't imagine the conversation Trump has with this guy, Thune.
Well, I think we're going to see progress in that.
Because of that.
Now, it isn't just in the U.S. that rich people are leaving the high tax areas. They're moving throughout the world. The two big countries around the world are experiencing huge outmigration of wealthy people. The UAE and the United States are the two countries that have gained the greatest number of millionaires in the last 5 years. And Britain, China, and India have lost the greatest number. Britain has lost 17,000 millionaires. The United States has gained 8,000 millionaires. And, I'm sorry, 1,000, I don't 1,000, I mean million. And the last year, France, Germany, and Spain were listed for the first time among the countries which were exporting more wealthy inhabitants than they were attracting. Britain lost a stunning 16,500 millionaires. The U.S., on the other hand, saw an influx of 7,500 millionaires. It's now home to more than a third of the world's people who are worth more than $30 million.
Wait, we have more than a third of millionaires worth 30 million.
And just to make sure that this trend continues, the California has now put on the ballot a wealth tax, a billionaire tax.
God, we have a story.
Which would be a 5% one-time tax. One time, they'll keep repeating it, of net worth of anyone earning over $1 billion. Now it's $1 billion, soon it'll be in the millions, soon it'll be affecting all of us.
Oh, my God.
This idea of not taxing income but taxing wealth is gaining priority all over the country and all over the world.
Priority or gaining?
Gaining traction.
Wow.
And we have to stop it. We cannot let the tax system tax wealth. It has to tax income. Can't tax the past. Has to tax the present and the current and the future.
Unbelievable. The money they just want to grab your money. No, we have to take a break.
Now, before we do the break, talk about this plot at the cage fight.
Oh, my God. A group of people made detailed plans to attack last Sunday the UFC cage fighting match on the White House lawn using drones and snipers. But the plot was uncovered because a concerned mother called. Federal prosecutors charged at least 5 people in connection with this plot in which the group hoped to detonate explosive-laden drones over the White House, causing the crowd to run, scramble, and then shoot at the crowd with snipers. This is horrible. The FBI learned about this plot on June 10th, 4 days before the martial arts thing, President Trump's 80th birthday, and was part of a celebration marking America's 250-year anniversary. Trump and the White House have portrayed the event as emblematic of the country's rugged spirit. Thousands of people were in attendance, including top administration people. FBI Director Kash Patel, who was at the UFC cage fight, touted the arrest as a feat of strength by law enforcement officials who learned of the plot after the mother of one of them called all about it. On Thursday, law enforcement searched this guy Proper, that was the kid's name with the mother that called him up, searched Proper's house in Ohio. During an interview that day, Proper admitted to planning a coordinated attack during the UFC event, according to the documents. Can you believe this? And then when
he said his goal was to jumpstart a revolution in the United States.
Could you imagine you do this with the drones, then people run out, and you have snipers, you got a couple of people with rifles? I mean, what the frig is going on here, man? Wow, where's his father? Right? All right, we have to take a break, and we come back, we yell at this kid a little more.
This is 77 WABC, and this is the Dick Morris Show. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Received very little attention, but there is a bipartisan, both parties agreed and passed the Congress, a housing bill that I think will make a significant dent in the homelessness population in the U.S. The House and the Senate reached an agreement to pass bipartisan legislation designed to boost the housing supply with help and affordability. This requires the changes in the building codes throughout the country so that it's easier to build a home. For example, one of the requirements that a lot of these codes have is you have to have 2 stairways. That's from the days when you needed 2 stairways because of fire. Now you don't really. So they're changing it to 1 stairway, which cuts millions from the cost of development. There are all sorts of land use regulations that are standing in the way of effective housing construction, and this removes them. It aims at increasing the housing supply by easing federal regulations and encouraging states and cities to reform their land use rules. But it also includes controversy, and it also bans large-scale investors from buying masses of single-family homes. This is going on right now, where because of the changes in federal fiscal policy, large developers are purchasing huge blocks of single-family homes and then renting them, but driving up the price to a point where people can't afford them. And it's causing a huge housing shortage throughout the country, and this will prohibit that.
Doesn't sound very smart, a guy buying 10 houses and jacking up the rent.
Not 10, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of them.
And then jacking up the rent, and then people can't afford to rent them?
Yeah, and they rent it to high-income people.
Oh, right.
And they deny housing to the average person.
Got it.
At the same time, a one-time wealth tax on billionaires living in Florida has qualified to be on the ballot in California. The measure, called the Billionaire Tax Act, received enough signatures and will be certified to be included on the midterm ballot. If approved, the measure championed by Bernie Sanders would impose a 5% tax and allocate into the revenues for health care and other programs. The whole goal here is to tax billionaires. But the real change here is that they're taxing wealth. They're not taxing income. They're taxing the accumulated assets of a lifetime. And they're not taxing income. And that is unconstitutional. It should be thrown out by the court. And I hope that if it passes California, it'll increase the number of Californians who leave.
Unbelievable. So unbelievable. The DOJ seeks to block reparations to black people whose ancestors suffered housing discrimination. The Justice Department is suing Evanston, Illinois, to stop a first-of-its-kind reparations program that has distributed more than $5 million to black residents who said they were hurt by housing discrimination. Evanston, a northern suburb of Chicago, has identified and begun paying roughly 600 black residents who say they, on their ancestors, were victims the city's discriminatory zoning ordinance from 1919 until 1969. Proponents of the landmark program hope to extend reparation programs such as one of the Evanstons to other cities across the United States, where they say the vestige of slavery and discrimination have resulted in a wealth gap and other residue harm to black Americans.
This is an effort to promote the whole idea of reparations. And the idea of reparations has been largely tied to the fact of slavery. But what they're doing is they're trying to tie it to discrimination in the 20th century so that they can try to make it reasoned. The Justice Department is saying that you can't do that. They said that that you can't have a program basically for black people and a woke racist program. Judicial Watch President Tom Fenton said reparations initiatives elsewhere in the country are on hold as proponents of the payouts wait to see whether the court delivers a technical knockout blow to reparations. The Justice Department argues that providing money to residents solely on the basis of race violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and the Fair Housing Act. There are sound ways for a city to remedy past discrimination or direct resources to its most vulnerable citizens and neighborhood. As Assistant Attorney General Harmat Dillon, who I love, who heads the Justice Department Civil Rights Bureau, said, "Simply handing out money based on race, however, is not the answer. It is race discrimination, pure and simple, and it's illegal."
Listen, they want to give money to people that were not slaves, take the money from people that never had slaves, right? And so where are we going with this?
Well, but what is going on now is this maneuver, which is to say, oh, this isn't about slavery. This is reparation for discrimination from 1919 to 1970.
Right, okay, so...
in zoning laws.
Okay, so I'm going to break right there. Here you go. You're born in 2002. Now you're 26 years old, whatever. What does any of that have to do with whether you got a job, whether your mother and father helped you to go to college? What does that have to do with anything? There's nobody that's born after 1970.
Actually, 1919 to 1969.
So after 70,
yeah.
I don't care who you are. Listen, I struggled all my life to make a living. I was not poor, but I was pretty close to poor all my life. I got cars and motorcycles. I've been building stuff. Nobody gave me anything. There was no white privilege thing happening on my end. Or if there was, I missed that boat. Oh, I missed when they were giving out that card on the corner. I must have been smoking pot in high school. I don't know. But seriously, somebody that's born 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago has nothing to do with what happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You wake up, you get a job, you go do what you got to do, and that's it.
This Evanston case is very important because it's the first time that they have actually passed reparations. But instead of going back to slavery, they're going back to housing discrimination that ended in 1969. And in doing that, they're attempting to get this reparations idea approved. And that's what the Justice Department is intervening about. American consumers continue to expand their spending at a broad array of national outlets in May, largely undeterred by rising gas prices.
Retail sales jumped almost 10% in May. The Department of Commerce.
Almost 1%, 0.9.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1%.
Consumers increased their spending despite surveys suggesting distress. A big driver of the increase came from higher gas prices at gas stations. But excluding gas stations, sales rose 0.7% and were up 3.7% from a year ago. 11 of the 13 categories tracked by Commerce showed monthly increases. Motor vehicle sales jumped 1.2%, the biggest rise in nearly a year. Compared to a year ago, sales were up 4.4%. Sales rose by a strong 1% at furniture stores. The retail sector has struggled amid a weak market for home sales. Real estate sales, after adjusting for inflation, likely grew by even more because the Consumer Price Index for furniture fell. Sales were also up at clothing stores, general merchandise stores, health and personal care stores. Sales at online retailers jumped 1.5%. Sales at a category that includes sporting goods, bookstores, and hobby stores rose 0.3%. So even when the gas prices were high, when this story was written and the survey was done, American consumers are overcoming that and really moving the economy along.
Well, you have what you call consumer confidence, right? You have to know. We all kind of felt that we got to get rid of Iran's nuclear bombs, and that's what he's doing. So gas prices were going to go up. As we said quite a few times, it's worth a couple of dollars here and there for a couple of months.
For a couple of months.
And people kind of know that and feel it. Now, this is a great story. Harvard students are twice as mentally ill as general population. Listen to this. The Ivy League is having a mental health crisis. I shouldn't laugh, but I am. I'm laughing at this. 47% of surveyed seniors indicated that they experienced mental illness at some point in their time at Harvard, and 13% said they were unsure, according to a survey the class of 2026 conducted. U.S. population...
Just stay with that for a minute. 47% of seniors at Harvard said that they have experienced mental health crises during their time at Harvard. 47%. That's more than double the general rate of population.
Here's why. Because there are a bunch of little, I can't say it, little babies, and they got the administration said, oh, you need a safe room, and you need to say, so everyone said, I got a mental health problem. When you're growing up, your friends go, just shut the frig up and get over there. Yeah. You might have a couple of kids that are...
At Princeton, a senior survey...
Man, you better have the beep button ready for me.
By the Princetonian magazine, found that 60% had mental health counseling or other therapy during college.
That's why.
With 36% getting help from the university's counseling services and 24% finding outside assistance.
Listen, they're enabling this mental illness thing, just like anything in the world. Just walk it off and shut up. I'm sure there's maybe 10% that really need help, and there is a problem with some kids and some people. I get it, but not 60%. I don't think so.
Yeah, but you're missing the basic point. They're nuts. They're crazy. And if you see their political opinions, you understand it.
That's my point.
Yeah. So when there's a sit-in, when the Yale or Princeton or
Mommy.
student body or Harvard student body complains about some racial inequity or some action of Trump or the Trump derangement syndrome,
help.
These guys are sick. They're mentally ill.
I knew someone that used to do interviews, or maybe still does, I don't know. And she told me that the kid came in 20 years old or 23 years old, out of college, right? Came into it was a business. I don't know if it was IBM or somebody, but it was a big business, right? And the kid came in, and the mother came in behind him, and the lady said, the girl was telling me the story, said, no, it's just, oh no, I have to be here with them. And she sat in the interview. So right there, what are we looking at over here?
Trump blasts the opponents of the Iran deal as fools.
No kidding.
He said Thursday those fools criticizing the memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran, defending the agreement, are fools. These fools who I haven't been tough enough on Iran.
Yeah.
When the stock market just hit a record high and oil prices are tumbling down, are either jealous, bad people, or stupid. Make America great again. Trump's comments came hours after he formally signed the memorandum of understanding alongside the Iranian president, launching a 60-day negotiating period aimed at converting the framework into a broader agreement covering Iran's nuclear capabilities. The memorandum is intended to halt further escalation while we pursue more negotiations. And the point is that the various critics, some conservatives, some Republicans, are saying, hey, why are you trusting Iran?
He's not.
Why are you giving Iran money?
He's not.
Why are you believing them? And the answer is he's not. He's not going to permit the aid to go to Iran. He's not going to even unfreeze the Iranian assets we already have in the U.S. What he is going to do is open the straits, which means that they'll sell their oil like they've always done.
Absolutely. Good.
And any further relief is going to be dependent on what they do in implementing this memorandum of understanding. If they don't, they're not getting a dime. If they don't release the nuclear dust, they're not getting a dime.
My prediction is the 61st day of this freeze, right? 60 days. On the 61st day, they're going to go back on their deal. The Iranians, they're going to say, all right, and they're not going to let people in, and Trump's going to bomb the crap out of them, and we're going to be back to the same thing. But he's not going to. I said this earlier. I don't.
But we won't be back to the same thing.
Right? You're right. No, I mean the Iranians will be back to the same. That's where
we will have crippled Iran.
Absolutely,
and we will have knocked out their power. We will have knocked out the desalinization plants. We will have knocked everything out, and it'll be a total desert again.
And maybe he should drop those leaflets to all the people that live there and say, listen, stand up to your government and we'll help you. You know what I mean? Where did they do that? We did that somewhere in the Middle East, maybe with Bush or something, I forget. But
former Army generals say Ukraine is making headway in the war with Russia. Russia's strategy has remained basically unchanged, despite losing almost 500,000 soldiers in its 4-year war with Ukraine. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges called the war a test of will and logistics. Sees Ukraine is coming out ahead on both counts. He said Kiev's fleet of drones is making dangerous for any Russian convoy or train moving into the southern or eastern parts of Ukraine. The Russians have never changed their approach to what they're doing. What they're doing today is almost the same as they were doing 4 years ago, just trying to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses. But the Ukrainians have figured out their theory of victory, the destruction of Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, so they can't raise the financial resources necessary to continue the war. The Atlantic discussion took place as another refinery was blazing. Retired Army General Wesley Clark said the refinery fire was not a one-off event. It's necessary that Ukraine continues to strike the same gas and oil pipelines. Russia gets it repaired. This has to go on and on and on. Can they sustain it? It looks like they can. So by having unmanned drones...
Whoa. Can the Ukraine sustain it? Yes, it looks like it can.
So by having unmanned drones, there's no personal casualties involved.
Right.
The drones are cheap, they're inexpensive, and they can just continue doing it. Retired General Douglas Luty, who after leaving the Army became U.S. Ambassador in NATO, said Russia's inherent military vulnerabilities, like low morale and abusive leadership, along with logistic challenges, will continue to be an issue as the war continues. So these logistics are meant to supply a relatively low-grade, low-quality armed force. Ukraine's strategy of targeting Moscow's rear area logistics could cause a morale at home. General Clark said while the average Russian soldier is poorly trained and receives inadequate logistical support, the Kremlin continues to turn out personnel who meekly walk like a meat grinder into the Ukrainian battlefield. They know if they're captured, they can get shot when they get home. There's a fear factor that motivates these Russian soldiers.
Wow.
That's really hard to penetrate. But Ukraine is winning.
Yeah.
Ukraine is conquering territory. Aerial satellite photographs suggest that a goodly portion of Ukraine is now liberated. And I don't want this war to end. I want it to continue. I want the Russians to be totally beaten. I want their army to be ripped apart.
Last year, and I was very upset at you.
I want their army to be ripped apart.
But you're right.
Okay, when we get back, California state legislature passed a bill to let kids divorce parents.
This is horrible.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
This is a horrible thing. This is so disgusting. California seeks to let kids divorce their parents. In the left's ongoing crusade to separate vulnerable children from the influence of their parents, Democrats in the failed state of California are pushing a bill that would allow minor children to divorce their parents. As you read this, keep in mind that this has nothing to do with protecting children. Quite the opposite, in fact. This is about removing children from the protection of their families so that they can be corrupted and exploited. The bill allows any minor residing in any residential facility to file a legal application against their parents without cause or evidence of harm, reports the Post-Millennium. Residential facilities include drug rehabilitation programs, boarding schools, wilderness therapy programs, faith-based residential programs, and runaway shelters. You think that sounds bad? Here's the devil in the details. The child can petition the court to strip the parents of custodial authority and substitute county child welfare control or foster placement, the report adds. The application needs not to be corroborated by any adult and need not be served on the parents. The child's statement alone is sufficient, this is horrible, is sufficient to trigger a mandatory assessment of the parent's home. This assessment can occur without the parent's knowledge. And here's the true motive. A child in a pro-reality therapeutic setting can use AB 1967, that's whatever, to move herself into a home or institution that will affirm her transgender identity. California welfare laws require children under state control to be affirmed in their gender identity, housed in accordance with their identity and not sex, and given access to sex rejecting interventions. So you have trouble with a teen dealing with all the complications that come with puberty, and oftentimes one of those complications is resenting your parents for reasons you don't even really understand. This is fairly common, and most families work through it with the family intact after the kids grow and mature, thanks to the love and guidance of parents, patients, and caring parents. What these degenerates in California want to do is exploit this perfectly normal phase of childhood by allowing the confused children in a legal mechanism to show them through this parent. This is horrible.
Yeah, so
first, I can't even get around this.
First, they get children to do sex altering therapy. Then they stop telling parents about them. Now they're eliminating
Legally,
parental rights
in a legal
and
fashion.
instead giving the rights to therapy centers that change the gender of the children.
Oh my God.
It's literally kidnapping.
Right? Yes, this is
and
kidnapping.
It's state law. So I don't know if the feds can do anything about it. This is unbelievable. It's
Really?
a legal kidnapping in California.
Feds can't come in on this?
Well, they
Because
might,
a
but
state
it's hard.
law? How would they be able to? I have to ask
Well,
you
they
that.
could come in and say it's a civil rights violation, a human rights
and that's
violation.
federal. And that's federal.
That's federal, and they might be able to do that.
Wow, this
Amazing.
is this
But-
story sickens me.
But this is probably the only time you've heard about this, this show. This is happening in secret. It's happening across the country, and very few people are aware of it or are calling people's attention to it.
When I was briefing myself this morning on this, I couldn't get over it. I was sick to my stomach.
It's amazing. There is more evidence that the Trump tax cuts are working. The average tax refund is now up 11% to over $3,400. Over 105 million filers have claimed the permanently doubled standard deduction, simplifying the filing process. And the expanded child tax credit has benefited over 34 million families. Nearly 12 billion small business owners are receiving tax reductions, averaging nearly $7,000, aided by the permanent extension of 20% small business deduction. Over 5 million Trump accounts have been opened, allowing Americans to build wealth with government-matched contributions and tax advantages employment opportunities. So Trump's tax cut, which has been attacked as a tax cut for the wealthy, is in fact stimulating alternatives to wealth and giving the average American a tremendous capacity. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, doubling the child tax credit, increasing the small business tax credit, and Trump accounts for newborns.
I want to ask you this, Dick. The Trump accounts. Now, I know he was doing with the children, give them $1,000 to $2,000, newborn, blah, 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 under 3 years old. Tell me about the Trump accounts. He's got other accounts with adults.
Well, these are standard deductions that he's increasing. He made this tax cut not by cutting the top rate. Top rate stayed at 40. What he did was he had a huge tax cut by middle-class tax cuts that are embedded in the text of the bill that are now taking effect. And it's unbelievable what's happening.
Wow, that's great. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Cuba. This is really a good story.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug Depierro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Cuba has passed a new emergency economic plan to push for expanding private enterprise, greater autonomy for municipalities, and policies to attract additional foreign investment.
The median... I'm sorry.
What's going on now in Cuba is that because of the American oil embargo made possible by toppling of Maduro and ending the export of Venezuelan oil to Cuba, and sanctions on Mexico to stop them from filling the void, Cuba is desperate economically. And what the Cuban government, the communists, are being forced to do is to privatize Cuba bit by bit, piece by piece. They're basically taking every institution that the communist government nationalized and privatizing it and turning it over to private investors, some of whom are the Cuban Americans who live in Florida now, who fled Cuba in the first place. This isn't as dramatic as Maduro being led away in handcuffs or the Ayatollah getting bombed and killed in Iran.
But it's bigger.
It's more important.
And you know what?
Eventually, Cuba is going to become a capitalist country.
You know, I said this a couple of months ago when we started with this whole Cuba thing and whatnot, and I talked to some people also. Number one, you got people in Miami 20 feet from Cuba, right? You got people in Miami, Cuban Americans or Cubans, whatever, that have businesses and are doing well. They have nightclubs, they have restaurants, they got things going on. Businesses that are happening, that are big in the city of Miami, right? You get them to open up business in Cuba. You already have a successful, let's say, Joe's restaurant, a Cuban restaurant, right, in Miami. You're going to get Cuban Americans in Miami taking a boat or a plane and going there.
Absolutely.
And you'll build,
it's going to be piece by piece. It won't be troops storming up the beach, but it will be Cuba being forced to retreat step by step away from socialism.
I'm going down there and I'm buying a whole block of, I'm not kidding. I'm going to go buy a block of buildings and I'm going to call it 1958. The whole block.
Before she left as Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard used her last day in office to release a trove of evidence that Dr. Anthony Fauci lied to Congress and directed U.S. funding for gain-of-function research linked to Big Pharma's pursuit of universal vaccines, all the while influencing and manipulating the intelligence community to cover up his role in the coronavirus epidemic.
Another creep.
Gabbard released a trove of documents on her last day in office, showcasing what she said for many years. Fauci lied to cover up his own alleged wrongdoing. The Trump administration is blowing the lid off the cover-up completely, showcasing Fauci's role in providing U.S. taxpayer dollars in the millions to fund dangerous gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute. Gabbard said, today on my final day as the DNI, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intel community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that's caused immeasurable harm to countless countries. Incredible.
Gabbard's alleged that those documents clearly exposed Fauci's direct role and influence in manipulating assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 24 when under oath he denied knowledge of the participation and discussions with intelligence officials about the disease. Gabbard also revealed that they have testimony from intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins. Ultimately, Gabbard said Fauci was able to use his close relationships with the intelligence community to shield him from scrutiny. That's horrible.
Last week, Los Angeles reported that L.A. County election officials were cooperating with law enforcement officials regarding allegations that Skid Row homeless population were paid or bribed with cigarettes and other items to register to vote and sign ballot petitions. On Thursday, plainclothes federal agents from the FBI descended on Skid Row to conduct interviews regarding election fraud. They acknowledged that there are a series of videos that indicate that these homeless people were bribed with money and cigarettes and other stuff to sign petitions to become mail-in voters.
This is why we need the SAVE Act.
Bear in mind that there were...
We got 30 seconds.
Bear in mind that a third of the ballots in the mayor's race in California and L.A. were last-minute mail-in voting. And there were mail-ins by these homeless people. And it's the first clear example of their using Skid Row homeless people to influence and determine the election.
Well, it's been an honor to be here, Dick Morris. Thank you, Roxana. We're on the rocks. And we're sorry for our call-in people that we couldn't get to. The show was just packed. But thank you for calling in. Try again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where we going for lunch?
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.